Everyone, thank you for this time. And I'll be talking about a slightly different topic today, which is the NetApp Keystone portfolio. This was announced back in 2019. And again, with a refresh in 2020, we have come a long way in terms of offering a flexible on-prem consumption portfolio for all of the NetApp products that could be sold as a service. So in today's session, we will look at the flexible consumption market. This is evolving quite a bit. Maybe a sneak preview of what that market entails. We'll give you information around the Keystone portfolio, especially around the Flex subscription and how the subscription works. Last but not the least, I think I would leave some time for my colleague Arun to walk you through the hybrid cloud environment in terms of managing the subscription offering with a demo, and we'll give you a preview of what that entails. So coming to the consumption trends, I think this is no secret to all of you. We have seen a good public cloud momentum pushing a lot of things towards an as-a-service business model. Not just from a storage standpoint, I think majority of the verticals and majority of the industries are transforming into an as-a-service framework. And from a customer standpoint, I think the biggest benefit is, the cash flow protection, pay-as-you-go flexibility, and also the risk sharing capability, both between the customer and the vendor. From a vendor standpoint, I think the most important aspect that's transitioning is how to take a look at shifting from a product sales model to a service-based outcome model. I think that's a very important aspect of the direction in which this specific transition is getting through. Also, the new technologies, which are mostly software-driven, like the IoT, AI, ML, and of course, big data. All of the things that Mike and Jeff spoke before, I think the goal is to look at how do we offer these technologies in an as-a-service model, which can help us to upsell and cross-sell if we need to add any additional capabilities, both from the public cloud standpoint as well as on the private cloud perspective. So again, no surprise, IDC talks about the shift in this market, and given the pandemic situation, we are seeing a larger traction towards these models, which is increasing in terms of the adoption as well. Majority of the edge locations, especially, are predicted to move into the as-a-service model. And given the different consumption frameworks and different ways people are consuming storage and also the associated assets around it, I think it's an important aspect of transitioning into this as-a-service model. Just to give you a preview of the industries that have gone into this, which is, data center, of course. You have all the major data center infrastructure vendors providing this today. No surprise there, and come a long way in the way they're providing it. Also PC as a service, device as a service. Intel also announced chip as a service. So majority of everything is moving into, as a service frameworks, not just the storage element of it. No, the reason for all of this is the better customer experience, a unified customer experience, improved availability. They do not have to worry about procurements. It simplifies the process quite differently. You can do a digital enablement for ordering, procuring, and letting go of your complex procurement processes. Helps you to conserve capital. Also, we'll look at the improved business outcomes with security and compliance all in place. I mean, you want it on-prem, provided on-prem. You want it colo, you want it data center. Everything will be available as a service framework.
So back a couple of slides, you mentioned that 75% of the edge is going to be moving to an as-a-service consumption model. I guess I don't understand how that would play out. I mean, most of these are... so storage as a service or networking as a infrastructure as a service. I mean, what would that look like in an edge solution? I mean, I'm looking at a retail small store or something like that with a small rack of servers and storage and stuff. You think all their stuff is going to be as a service?
Yes, I think I can give you a specific example that we are working through with one of the vendors, which is basically looking at a smaller t-shirt-sized edge appliance. Exactly to your point, rack and stack everything together as a one single unit that gets shipped. And the payment will be based on a per usage model, on whether you're using, a piece of storage or a piece of, network or a compute element. You're charged based on that. So it is a single, t-shirt t-shirt sized or box sized appliance that gets shipped to the edge and paid on a per drip model, which is already kind of, we are seeing that inflection. But I think it's fairly early to comment on how the transition is going to happen. But I think essentially there is a momentum. Surely that's why we are seeing what IDC is saying. Again, it's an IDC reference. From our perspective, it has just started, if you ask me, and it is going to take at least another couple of years or more to get to a proper use case scenarios.
Okay, thanks.
Moving on from here, the reasons are very evident in terms of why these consumption-based infrastructure is driving the as-a-service model. So NetApp didn't want to be behind on this, and we have gone ahead. We've been doing a couple of different things for a long time now. We've been having alternative financial structures. We've been having leasing models, which is a standard thing. But I think getting it under a portfolio and calling it as a flexible alternative portfolio was something which is heavily driven right now within NetApp. So the FlexPay option always existed. We do have the creative financing and leasing, and we include FlexPod under that consumption model. This is basically in alignment with Cisco's OpenPay, that we provide a rental kind of a model to the customers launched through the channel that they can leverage the FlexPod structure with compute coming from Cisco and storage coming from NetApp. The Flex subscription, on the other hand, is a completely subscription model, which with a seamless hybrid cloud experience. I'm going to talk about a lot more on this topic as we go into the next few slides. We will be coming out with Flex Utility, which is called One Subscription. And this One Subscription, given our engagement with the hyperscalers, will allow customers to share or look for storage both on-prem, in the cloud, through a single subscription offering, through a single invoice. They don't have to go to multi-vendor kind of capabilities or anybody else, but it could be solved through NetApp with all the hyperscalers that we are working with. This is the true data fabric in action, if you ask me, and I think it's going to help us both from a management standpoint, from payment, as well as from infrastructure, as well as from decisions on where the workloads should reside. So I think the biggest element, a lot of other vendors have launched it. I think the capability that comes with Keystone Flex Subscription is this single unified subscription that can enable you to move back and forth between on-prem and cloud to save costs. You could look at cloud for burst, especially if there is a transient usage, or if you're looking for migrating data, you could leverage our CVO, CVS, or ANF offerings that we have today. And it's a true OpEx, basically gives you the flexibility to look at this payment model in an OpEx-driven structure. We'll talk about this management portal in Arun's section, and he'll give you a view of how this entire thing is going to unravel. So the biggest differentiator here is the portal itself that gives you the self-management capability to decide on where the workload should reside and how it should be moving back and forth between on-prem and your cloud infrastructure. Keystone has been successful so far. We have a really good sizable set of customers already deployed in action at this point. And the majority of the reasons that we have seen why they prefer to look at the Keystone as a service model is, one is a cloud-like experience. The portal provides the end-to-end enablement that talks about your usage, both from a performance standpoint, capacity standpoint, and also looking at some of the other elements of information. But for today, it's mostly focusing on the storage parts of it. We'll expand the scope eventually to add a lot more into that. The second set of customers, why they're interested in Keystone, is it's a transition to the cloud. They're moving to the cloud, but the legacy applications continue to remain on-prem because of regulations. And while they go to the cloud, they can leverage the little footprint that's on-prem with this kind of a structure.
Sunitha, sorry, I have a question.
Sure.
So you mentioned success, but you didn't give us numbers. Do you have any number to share with us? I mean, how many customers are adopting Keystone at the moment, and how they are adopting it? I mean, is it a single purchase, and then they forget about it, or is it a continuous purchase so they are growing their infrastructure? What is happening with the customers?
Very good question. Thank you for bringing that up. So I can give the number. We do have about roughly 15 customers already onboarded, and quarter over quarter, we're kind of increasing the number almost by 10%, I must say. That's on the customer side. Now, to your question on the second point, it's a very interesting point that you bring up. The reason I say that is we have seen an interesting mix in this journey so far. One is a set of customers who just buy the storage and then they forget about it and they're happy with it. And the second one is the one that's increasing capacity as they go around. We do have some customers who actually doubled capacity in just about 2 months of coming on board to Keystone. There are customers who are looking at maybe a 6-month window. There is a variation, but majority of them, I think, at this standpoint, first is they would want to test how this model is working for them. Once they feel confident about it, they kind of go ahead and add more capacity. So I think it's the similar concept of how they went to the cloud and what they got with it, but this is more flexible because it's in their own data center. And the procurement becomes quite simplified once they come on board with the first subscription. The capacity addition or a service addition is a fairly online activity. No need of any rep or any person going and pitching again to this particular customer. Hope it answers your question.
Did you say 15 customers?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So again, the trend is, we are seeing a shift towards the spend, moving away from capital spending to an operational spending, which is into the OpEx kind of a world. That's where Keystone plays a good role in terms of providing that flexibility to leverage their OpEx budgets. And we do have, some customers moving in that direction also. Given the pandemic situation, especially in the automotive sector, I think we did have a customer who wants to look at, ramping up the production as the economy improves. They would want to sustain. And this, to your question, I think this is where it's like they come on board, they stay here, but they want to ramp up, once they see the improvement in their production. An excellent example to the question that you had on, whether they want to move fast or slow or, a combination of both.
I have another question. I mean, because I'm baffled here by the 15 customers. So these customers maybe are huge customers, yes. But actually, there is a huge difference between the cloud and on-premises, especially because on the cloud, I can spend €20 or $20, depending on where you are, and you can start, consuming resources. Yeah. Even if I can do that with a NetApp array or for a FlexPod, okay, mm-hmm. Maybe if I have a small, medium enterprise, I can start with, I don't know, 50,000, 100,000. That's my initial goal for an investment. Yep. I mean, not millions and not, and I want to buy as little as possible, yep. Because it's OpEx, and then grow by the I don't know, the terabyte or mm-hmm. things like that. So mm-hmm. It's granularity and, entry level that are key here. And 15 customers seems like, with all the investments you're doing, what's the goal of this program?
The goal of this program is to go as big as we can with the shifts that we're seeing in the market and the competition. And I think, Enrico, your point is very fair, where we are looking at the current trend that I'm seeing, especially the ones that are coming on board, come with a minimum of whatever the minimum capacity terms are. We're going to discuss that in the next couple of slides as well. So they start with as small as 100 terabytes is something that they think is a good start. And again, not all of them are large enterprises. There are some medium and small enterprises as well. Now, there are some flexibilities that we offer in the program where if you're coming through the partner track, you can actually have reduced minimums. Basically, you don't have to go up to 100. You can even go to like 15 or even, 50 terabytes as well, if that helps. So again, the intent here is for those customers who are on a journey to the cloud. While they kind of transition, they would want to look at how to limit their on-prem resources in moving to the cloud. Not everybody is ready to shift 100% there, since there is a transition. There are application requirements that need to change, especially getting into the cloud. While it's simple, like you said, it's €20 on the cloud, but then there is a complexity of how their existing applications work in the cloud. For the new age startups, yes, that's a very, very valid situation. They would directly go cloud first and then come to on-prem. But there are existing mid-size and large enterprises where they are already on-prem, and transitioning to the cloud is their next step to save costs. And that's the customer base or the install base that we are kind of targeting for this offering. The Flex subscription in a nutshell is 100% OpEx offering, no asset ownership. All the assets are owned by NetApp. It's a single subscription. It's one bill. for everything. We help to orchestrate, monitor, manage, and optimize the usage as well, in terms of, first setting up the system to all the way to activating it and providing weekly and monthly reports in terms of the usage, as well as any kind of alerting that's required for those systems. Flexibility of terms, you can choose the term, you can choose the capacity, and also we provide integrated offering which can give cloud economics on-prem with our greatest and latest fabric pool technology that they can leverage through this program without having to know where they're going to go for putting their cold data on. So in a nutshell, we do offer the entire portfolio as part of the Keystone offering. Fairly simple, 4 steps. Select the service tiers that map to workloads and applications. So for this, what we've done is we have our inbuilt tools within NetApp that we've used for sizing. So we do have the application mapped to a specific, platform, you may call it, or technology, you may call it. And then you can choose the capacity for these selected service tiers. It could be a combination of tiers. It could be a single tier, depending on what applications you would want to onboard. You could actually choose that. The payment term is flexible. You can start with 1 year and you can go all the way up to 3 years. And last but not the least is you can choose who operates it for you. We have a flexibility of operations in terms of guaranteeing SLAs, especially if a partner drives it or NetApp drives it, or you could use it yourself and we could size it and provide you with the same tooling that you would get if it is managed by us versus you. When you're managing, you're going to have just the visibility of the assets in terms of your usage and how those assets are reporting back with respect to mapping to your invoice.
I have a question on that Flex subscription as well. So you mentioned the partner. So do you guys have a full, is this integrated into your channel programs where partners can resell?
Yes, I will be talking about that in the next couple of slides and give you what partners are going to do with Keystone Flex subscription as well. Okay, getting to the next slide, we kind of give different tiers or different flavors of service tiers that we offer, backended by our technology. It could be our ONTAP, FAS, AFF platforms. It could be our storage grid with E-Series, or it could be our Santricity, E-Series platform as well. All of the decisions in terms of which platform to choose lies with NetApp. Like I said, the major decision point is what workload are you kind of putting it on, and what is your requirement from a data protection standpoint or from a tiering standpoint. We ask these questions in the first set that you've seen, and based on it, we actually come back and provide a full-blown information around what are we going to deploy, how are we going to deploy. We're going to be working with the data center teams, whether it's a colo or a customer data center, to give them information about cooling, rack sizes, all the information around the density requirements, networking requirements. All of this is done in consulting, and all of this comes at no cost. So we take care of putting all the systems, installing it, activating it, and the service is ready to go. We do it within a window of 2 weeks from the time the order is placed to the service activation in majority of the countries. And of course, there are some countries where availability could be an issue. In such cases, the timing might range anywhere between 2 weeks to a month. We do have an auto tiering capability that's integrated. However, we decide on what amount of data to be tiered off. So when somebody selects an extreme with data tiering or a premium with data tiering, we talk about putting about 25% hot and 75% of the cold data. And the default target of tiering is storage grid. I mean, we can choose other targets as well, but when we provide the service, we actually look at storage grid as the service. So we talk about what are the benefits in terms of the subscription offering. The minimum the minimum capacity is about 100 terabytes, and we offer a 20% guaranteed buffer on top of it. So roughly about 400 terabytes, you get like 120, but the 20 is paid only as you use, right? So if you can see in this picture, the traditional CapEx is, you buy it up front, you're not sure of your usage, and the green line shows the usage versus what the procurement is. Versus if you come to the Keystone program, we basically put you under 3 different terms. One is the committed capacity, consumed capacity, and the burst capacity. Committed is nothing but it's what you're committing on a monthly basis. It's minimum of all the logical capacities that will be billed to you, which is the 100 terabytes. And consumed is how much are you using of that committed capacity that you signed up for. Burst is basically just when you burst into that for a day, for a week, you pay for that. Otherwise, it's going to be sitting in your environment just for those situations where you might really need that burst. If there is a scenario that comes into a picture where you might want to go over the 100 terabytes of minimum commit. Last but not the least is the final build capacity is going to be your committed plus the burst, which is paid in arrears monthly, or you can also do an upfront. We talk about two options in the payment structure. One, you can pay in monthly arrears, both for burst as well as your committed. In your upfront, you pay committed upfront, but the burst can be paid on a quarterly basis. We guarantee a 20% burst as part of the offering. However, if somebody would want to go higher than the 20%, they would pay a 50% premium. This is where we come into play to discuss the requirements so that they always remain in that 20% window, unless otherwise there is a situation where they might need that 50% only for a shorter period of time, which is what we will support. The flex up and flex down, there is no major flexibility in a monthly model, but in an annual model, we provide a flex down option at the start of every year through the contract cycle. So we normally, for an annual upfront, we normally recommend going a multi-year contract because that saves a lot in terms of what they can pay for and how they can use. I think that's something that's more richer in terms of the capabilities as well, where they can come down and go up as they need. Like I said, the minimum term is roughly about 1 to 3 years. So this is the roles and responsibilities. So we offer in 3 models. Like I said, we do the NetApp operated model where NetApp takes the ownership of everything end to end. It's a white glove service. It comes at an additional dollar value over and above the standard subscription price. For the partner operated, it's the same model. However, partners fall under different tiers. I'll be talking about that in the next slide. The customer operated is fairly straightforward. We do the initial installation and the support. The responsibility of administering it, operating, optimize it completely lies with the customer. That said, we will be providing monthly and weekly reports to them, and we will give them recommendations. That's about it. We will not be proactively, looking at their infrastructure. Unlike the previous case, where in the NetApp operated model, we will be proactive about looking at the infrastructure behaviors. It's going up and down. We try to adjust it in collaboration with the customer directly. So we do have a good program that's attached to Keystone Program, where we will be helping with simplifying the buying experience. We will be running comprehensive design workshops to help define what strategy should they adopt in terms of looking at the data placement and leveraging the right tier of storage for their workloads. We will also give them a good white glove service. If they are not interested in the white glove service, we provide with the additional tooling capabilities that they can have visibility into what they're using. Last but not the least is leveraging our in-house tools with ActiveIQ and with the Service Engine platform. We will be providing predictive analytics for them to make decisions on the recommendations that we will be providing. All of this will not be charged. This will be the initial discover phase under the Keystone program, where we will be providing the Keystone advisory to them for them to decide on what path would suit their infrastructure and their data center requirements. So we do have a couple of alternatives. Of course, the direct channel is always there. The direct customer is always there. In case of a direct customer, NetApp directly contracts with the customer. The asset ownership lies with NetApp. In case of a sell-with partner, the sell-with role of a partner is only influence and consult. In this scenario as well, we will be directly having the contract obligations with the customer. In case of a sell-with, the partner gets a one-time payout the minute he identifies a customer for us. The sell to is a pretty expanded scope. We do have a good set of partners today who have onboarded onto the Keystone journey. Currently, majority of them are in the first 2 buckets, where the Keystone billing business capability is more so a standard one, like a customer operated model, where the partner is responsible only for managing the contracts and the billing. We are contracting with the partner, and the partner just manages the subscription and the contracts with the end customer. In the second case, where it is operations specialized, we will be looking at the partner to support our build, first call, initial installation activities. Last is the nirvana, where the partner gets to do end-to-end of everything, just like how NetApp would do. Each of these buckets would come with different discounts for the partners from a pricing perspective, so that they can offer these discounts to their end customers while they present the Keystone deal. So this is the last slide. I think very simple. We ask them to order and look at the workload that suits their service tier. We do the site readiness and then installation in 14 days. We do an ongoing monitoring and give recommendations in terms of all of the aspects of the service that's being offered to the end customer, with also having, if we violate the SLAs, there are penalties as well that are inbuilt into this.
Sunitha, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And again, because I'm skeptical about all of this, not this Keystone, but every model like this.
Sure.
I mean, so in my personal experience in the last, let's say, 6 months, I talked about this kind of model with many of my clients, and they are very excited in the first 20 minutes. And when they start to understand the cost, they say, no, we will go with the traditional purchasing model.
Yeah.
I never experienced Keystone in the field. I mean, I'm talking about other programs here, but it was, common across the board. So what I like to understand is, if I buy today a NetApp storage, okay, let's say a 10 terabyte or 100 terabyte array, and it costs me, I don't know, let's say a price, 100K. How much does it cost to have the same identical array, the same amount of time, like 3 years, including contracts with Keystone?
That's a good question again, Enrico. So I think from a premium perspective, we are looking at anywhere between 10 to 20%, depending on what tier of storage you're picking up. That's the premium that they would pay. Now, that said, there are a couple of things that are slightly different in the way I can offline share with you some of the TCO calculators that we've built to enable our customers to understand what is it that they're going to end up with. The one thing to note in this context is the asset ownership piece. Not every customer is ready to transition into this model. It's not like, I'm going to go open up the doors and have everybody come into this particular path. But there are some customers who would not want to look at, their refreshes. Who do not want to see, the technology changes and keep monitoring it, upgrade it, make those changes. This program gets everything to them right up front with reduced costs about all of the things that I just mentioned, including the people that are onboarded to manage and support these services in the back end.